Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming to you guys with my review for Season 1 of The Walking Dead, Dead City. Alright, so we have now reached the end of the short first season here for The Walking Dead, Dead City Season 1. So this is the first of the 3 spin-offs, right? That will be coming over the course of the next, year and a half, right? With the Rick and Michonne spinoff, the Daryl Dixon, and this one here with the Maggie and Negan one, Dead City. So it has wrapped up, and like I said, it really was short. It was only 6 episodes, so 6 weeks of episodes here for the season. So, love to get your guys' thoughts on this first season of Dead City. And I take it, most people that are even just watching Dead City are really diehard Walking Dead fans like I am. And probably even more of a percentage would be watching this review, right? They would definitely be diehard fans. So, if you're in that boat, obviously leave your thoughts of, how this relates to the original series, how this relates to seeing Maggie and Negan in a different kind of environment and all that kind of stuff. Love to hear all your guys' thoughts on that. And of course, if you're not in that boat, I do know I have heard from a few people, seeing comments here and there of people who basically gave up on the show or stopped watching it at a certain point, probably around season 7, right? That's when a lot of people say they stopped watching the show, and they came back just for Dead City, and they've been watching it. So if you're in that boat, obviously love to hear your thoughts on it too, for sure. But if you enjoyed this review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. Would really appreciate that. Without any further ado, I don't have a lot to comment on for this first season. It is 6 episodes, like I said, relatively short. I'm not going to be going into individual episodes or events and stuff like that, just kind of my overall thoughts now that the season is all over. So I will get into a few of those notes now. So, I just want to start off here, and I think I said the exact same thing actually in my kind of quick review I did for the pilot episode, and I guess I shared my thoughts in my kind of review roundup video that I did as well. So, kind of echoing these same thoughts, and I feel the same way now that the season is done as I did just when the pilot aired. This exceeded my expectations. It really did, right? Going into it, and I'm sure a lot of, diehard fans can relate, there was an initial reservation there for a spinoff that had Maggie and Negan together, right? The whole concept or idea of that just seems so strange. And for them, to be in New York City. So there was a lot, I think, going against the spinoff. And I was obviously I love Negan, so it's, I wanted to see him, but I was kind of curious to see how they would do it. And I will say it did exceed my expectations in that regard. It really did, feel like it all came together, right? It wasn't just this mishmash of these two characters who really don't obviously get along, and it just kind of felt weird. It really didn't feel like that. It really did feel like these characters were, it was the right call to put them in the same spin-off and kind of explore this relationship a little more, explore these, dynamics between those two, because they did explore them towards the end of the original series, but not fully, right? Not all the way through, I don't think. There were some really great scenes, some of the most emotional scenes probably of the entire last season, or maybe even the series, if you want to go that far, between Maggie and Negan there. Great scenes. But yeah, there was obviously more to flesh out here. And so in that way, I will say it definitely did exceed my expectations, going into it. Now, that doesn't mean I was blown away and it was amazing, because my expectations were relatively low. But yeah, I do have to say that I want to give them credit. They really did kind of pull together a spinoff that made sense for these two characters to be together, right? Whereas at the beginning, I was a little weary on that. So, for sure. All right, so the biggest positive, the biggest praise I have for this spinoff is the way that they were able to make the Walking Dead universe feel fresh again. Even after all of the episodes they did in the original series, 11 seasons, they somehow found a way to make this spinoff feel a little more unique, something in it kind of just stood out. And to me, a few of those things, so the color grading, first of all, was just spectacular. The greens, the blues, bit of a neon kind of approach to things. Even in the intro design, right? Like you can see kind of that bright colors. Like I said, that neon, a lot of green I noticed for sure. When they're in the sewers as well in episode 4, just like some really, really great way to use color, whereas the original series, I didn't really notice that as much. I don't think they really, went for it and really intended that. And so, yeah, I just felt like the color, just the palette, just visually seeing it, was really, really well done. Really great. And then, obviously, the costumes were great, too, especially what Maggie was wearing in the first couple episodes. And I guess she pretty much has the same main outfit on for the whole run here for the season, because it takes place over the course of a couple days, right? But I thought those were really great too. I mean, even the Croat, and of course Negan is looking, kind of like himself in the leather jacket, right, that he's wearing. And so he looks similar, but I just thought like that, the costumes also kind of lent themselves little more unique. Some of the shots here were obviously unique because of the setting of New York City, with a lot of these kind of shots like panning up and looking up at the big skyscraper buildings. And this also speaks to the special effects that I thought were really well done. Exception of a couple shots that looked a little, not the greatest. For the most part, though, I thought the special effects were great. And like I said, to capture these kind of shots, obviously, they were not shooting, real decrepit buildings in New York City. So this is all effects, and I thought it looked really great, and let them kind of accomplish that feel that they were going for. So yeah, like I said, it really made it feel fresh from at least a visual standpoint. I mean, I think, and I'll get to that, but a lot of the writing felt kind of along the same lines. But from a visual standpoint of just watching the show, I felt like it really did feel kind of unique and fresh. In that way, to us viewers who have been, with the show for so long, kind of watching the same type of, look to all these episodes, for the most part. Obviously, some kind of, looked more unique than others and all that stuff with the different settings and that. So, all right, so now let's get to, I guess, a couple criticisms of it. Those, were kind of the positives I started off with. So, I will say, and going to be kind of minor spoilers for this one, because I'm going to talk about a few characters and deaths and all that. So, the side characters for this series. Now, this is something that I thought was interesting. I wanted to bring this up because AMC, Scott Gimple, whoever was all kind of behind all these spinoffs, right? They really made the conscious decision to say, okay, we're going to take Negan and Maggie, Daryl, and then Rick and Michonne. So it was very much these kind of singular, and I guess Carol, right? We know that she's in Daryl Dixon too, and she was originally going to be. So, okay, fair enough. So you have these pairs then of characters in each of these shows, but they're not really taking any other characters from the original series. So I think it just kind of creates a problem, because in this series, it just didn't seem like there were enough side characters. And while, of course, Negan and Maggie are, they're enough, I guess, right, to be interested. And for a story like this that's so kind of insular, maybe it worked to have fewer characters and just to have Maggie and Negan. But obviously, something that made the original series so great was all of these side characters and that, the supporting characters, the supporting cast. And that's just something they didn't really do here, right? They brought along these two characters of Amaya and Tomas. And I actually thought they were actually, getting pretty interesting as characters. And right at that point, they were killed off in episode 5, right? And to me, like, we just found out that Tomas betrayed them, and then that relationship kind of becomes a little complicated between Amaya and him, her trusting him, right? I feel like there was, a good dynamic about to be played out there, and these characters that, up until that point, were just, kind of basic characters, but they actually really kind of added some depth to them just before they killed them off. And so those are characters we spent the better part of 5 episodes with, and then they're dead, and, now we're left with basically just the Marshal, which I thought he was good, right? He was good, not great. I don't think he was fully fleshed out, but he was good. And the Croat, right? And he's a villain, so I wouldn't even count him as like a side character for the show. So to me, it just kind of felt like Amaya and Tomas were just these, kind of stand-ins, basically, to just die eventually. It never really felt like they were given, true development as side characters should. And again, maybe that is just because Maggie and Negan are enough for the show, and that's kind of what they decided, so that's what they're rolling with. But I just think we need a couple more, and I guess Ginny, you could say too. She didn't really talk much, and I like the relationship with Negan, but she's just not a major enough character, especially a child actor. They're not going to give them too much in that way. But so yeah, I just would like to see at least, and we know it's getting a season 2, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I would just like to see some more side characters that we actually get to know, we give some development to, and let them stick around for a little longer to actually play out that story. I just think that's just a better way to model the show and have us care a little more about some of these scenes with Amaya and Tomas and their people that we saw, and they all just kind of end up dying and just being fodder for walkers later on. So that was a bit disappointing. Now, like I said, I think the Marshal is good. I really liked him actually in the pilot. I think he kind of didn't quite reach the potential I thought they were going to with him. And Croat. I mean, the Croat is great. Even then, you could really say that he's almost like a Walking Dead original series character, even though we never met him, right? He was still kind of in that universe. But again, he's a villain. He's not a side character to me, and of course he was a great villain for the first season here, and also great to see that actor. I don't remember his name offhand, but he has just been so great in a lot of shows over the years that I've seen, and so to see him get this part, I was really really happy for him, and kind of just excited to see him in the show. And he does play some villains. I mean, he had a bit of a role in Suits and kind of played a villain type. But a very, very different character for sure. So, so that would be my kind of one criticism there for sure. And then I want to talk about the finale episode. So, to me, it was kind of disappointing, to be honest. Given the twist that was revealed at the end of episode 5, that this whole thing was just Maggie bringing Negan to the Croat, right? It was not about, the grain or that kind of made up story or whatever. And it wasn't because Negan knew the Croat and would be able to help her, rescue her son. No, it was going to be to trade him for her son. So I thought that was actually a really interesting twist, although I will say I think they could have made it a little more clear. I was a little confused at first, and then I figured it out, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, but it took me a second to get there. But anyways, so they have this twist. I think it's pretty cool. It really kind of changes things. But then the finale ends up being rather anticlimactic. With this twist, we get Maggie and Negan kind of fighting very early on in that finale. And then after that, the Croat shows up, Maggie holds the knife to Negan's neck. And then the whole rest of the episode just kind of plays out exactly how you thought it would and how it kind of was set up to. There was really no further kind of twist or stuff to happen. And even the thing with Jenny, you really thought at the end of episode 5 that, she's probably going to tell Negan about it. And even that scene kind of was anticlimactic because, Negan had to do that tough thing and send her home to get her out of there and make sure she was safe. And so we never really got the payoff of, Jenny being able to save Negan from Maggie. So, just thought it was a bit anticlimactic for everything that was happening. And of course, it ultimately ends on this kind of open-ended note for another season, right? And so that's kind of, and I kind of expected that, right, going into it. I mean, going into the finale, you knew that all this stuff wasn't going to be wrapped up, especially with the introduction of the I'm forgetting her name now, the Dama, something like that, right? The woman. With her introduction, you knew that wasn't going to be resolved in this finale. You knew it was going to be open-ended, and that's the way it is. And they've been renewed for a season 2, so at least that makes sense now why they would leave it open-ended and it wasn't just canceled or something like that. That would have sucked, right? But yeah, so they leave it open-ended, and with that too, it's just, I don't know, thinking back about this whole story about Maggie going to New York to rescue her son, it really, to me, and I think I said this in my review roundup video when I talked about the pilot, it really feels like this may have been better in a movie format, like an hour and a half, hour 45 movie for AMC, to just do the story of Maggie going to rescue her son from, New York City, going onto the island, and, have Negan there. You could even have this twist that the whole time she was trying to, get him there, and maybe the movie ends with her, going back and saving Negan, or somehow, killing the Croat, saving Negan, and bring him back. And I think that would have made for a really great movie, especially given the effects and the other stuff that was here present that made it feel a little more fresh. So to me, it's just, I don't know, like leaving it open-ended here for another season just feels a little bit incomplete to me, whereas if it was a movie, it would have felt like a very complete story. And now it has been renewed for season 2, like I said, right? So AMC has given it the green light. The pilot was a really huge success for them on AMC Plus, or so they say, right? We never get the real numbers for any of those kind of streaming services and all that, but huge hit. So of course, yes, they renew it. So the question is, though, what is the story going to be? Like, to me, it just feels a little gimmicky here to have, Maggie go to save Negan, right? I guess that's kind of what they're setting up, is like, oh, Maggie's going to have to go back into the city to save Negan. And to me, it's just like, okay, is every season of the show just going to be, one of them going back into the city to save the other? At the end of season 2, is Negan going to escape, but Maggie's stuck there, and so then he has to go back for her? So, I don't know. To me, again, this story was Maggie going to rescue her son from the Croat on the island. That story's complete. And so the way, they kind of force it to leave it open-ended, to have Negan kind of be, basically held hostage, but he's going to be in charge of everything. It's I don't know. It just feels a little bit forced to me, for sure. Now, I am really curious to see how Negan deals with becoming the villain again. Like I said off the top, Negan's one of my favorite characters. I love watching him. Love watching Jeffrey Dean Morgan obviously portraying him. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Like, that'll be really cool. But again, like I said, Maggie's role in that just seems a little forced to me. It would almost make more sense at this point for her to just not be in the second season. Like, her story of rescuing her son's pretty much done, and it's really just Negan that's there in this kind of predicament that we need to follow. So, yeah, again, just a little force there. We'll have to see, how that plays out, and, what Maggie's role actually is, because it looks like we know what Negan's role is. Becoming that villain again, and we'll have to see if he gets Lucille back and the glove. I don't know. And of course, like, I'd love to see that. It would be awesome. I would not complain for a second if we got some of that back. I mean, I have to mention that flashback with Simon, getting Stephen Ogg to come back for that flashback sequence. I think it was in episode 4 or something like that. Just amazing. Obviously, I loved watching that, and I will love watching Negan, be in his villain arc again. But yeah, I'm just curious to see how we're going to get there and how Maggie's going to fit into it all. So anyways, those are kind of my thoughts looking forward then to season 2 and kind of how this one wrapped up. And then I just want to quickly mention the Daryl Dixon spinoff. So that is the next one. Of course, there'll be no kind of carryover at all between Dead City and Daryl Dixon, or at least not at this point. I mean, who knows? Maybe all these spinoffs connect at the end of them. I really am not sure maybe that is their overall plan, but at this point, there'll be no connections. But it is kind of the next spinoff here in the series of spinoff, and this is going to premiere September 10th. And yeah, I'm just cautiously optimistic about it. The trailer dropped, and a few of the teasers. again, my complaint about the side characters is going to be huge in this show because it literally is just Daryl for at least the majority of season 1. I think I'm not sure if Carol's in that or not. I'm not sure, but we'll have to see. But it looks like it would mainly just be Daryl. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Obviously, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be watching it. Obviously, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I will say though, this one did exceed my expectations going into it of what I thought it might be. So I got to give Daryl Dixon, I got to be a little more confident maybe about that one. And that is what is really great though for AMC. Having said that, is that Dead City was a success, because if Dead City was not really a success and didn't, first, like obviously the popularity and, the subscribers and all that stuff that they got, but also just from a quality standpoint, right? Like this was a pretty big success considering, kind of going into it, like I said, kind of reservations about a Maggie and Negan show. So it was a big deal that this kind of succeeded, because now Daryl Dixon, is more likely to succeed. Rick Michonne is more likely to succeed. So great to start it off like this. But anyways, I'll be looking forward to the Daryl Dixon spinoff and season 2 of this show whenever we'll get that, right, with the strikes and all that. So, maybe cross your fingers next year. We'll have to see. But anyways, that'll just about do it. So like I said off the top, love to hear your guys' thoughts on this season of Dead City. Also, what are your thoughts on the Daryl Dixon spinoff? Are you looking forward to it? All that stuff. So yeah, once again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this one, and we'll see you then in my next review.